Dr. Jaffe, can you speak a little bit about the challenges of adding a new item to the LRA testing panels? What kind of challenges, and do some items take longer than others? I'm sure our listeners and clients would love to know.
Thanks for that question. There are many details that make our ex vivo LRA by ELISA Act work, and work within 3% variance, which is an unusually tight, precise, sensitive, and specific measure. First of all, going back to 1983-84 when we started, I first realized that the commercial antigens that we bought, the bottles that said corn or wheat, also contained a bunch of other things like mold spores and schmutz. What is schmutz? Schmutz is contaminants. So we go to the trouble of making each of our antigens ourselves. We're one of the few labs in the country that can standardize a new antigen from scratch. And sometimes we go to the market and we get the material that we want to start with. In general, and in specific, because we have now done this for 550 items, the largest number of foods, preservatives, medications, toxins, and now dental materials and orthopedic materials. In specific answer to the question about how long does it take, it takes about 2 months if we have prior experience with that category of compounds, like the category called minerals or the category called mold. But very often it takes longer because we, in addition to purifying the antigen, then coating it evenly on a very special microtiter plate that we had to develop. So we can do a cell culture and then put that same plate on a microscope. And we're now using digital microscopes, so we see them on a high resolution screen. You can come and look too. And we read 5 different areas on each well and can test maybe 300 or so items in an hour. We can test for everything we test for within a couple of hours. Now, we also had to be concerned about the cells. So you follow the instructions, you cool the cool pack in the refrigerator. That brings the temperature of the specimen down, not too cold, not frozen. Somewhere between 4 and 10 degrees centigrade is a sweet spot where cells go to sleep. They don't metabolize. How did I know that? Well, I knew that from my days at NIH, from my days at Beth Israel Hospital, from my days at University Hospital. So I applied what I knew, and then I innovated where I needed to, and we came up with this ex vivo, not in vitro, but ex vivo cell culture that is very reproducible. And very often, in regard to standardizing a new antigen, we make a certain assumption about what the concentration of antigen would be to get the optimum results. And we use 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 different dilutions, and then we test them. But sometimes we're not right. Sometimes we have to go to a higher dilution, or sometimes to a lower dilution. But we always standardize the antigen to get the optimum results. And even though we're now testing for almost 550 or so items, we are grateful when anyone suggests that something in addition would be helpful. And right now, based on requests. We are in the process of standardizing an antigen called zirconium, which is very important in regard to dental and orthopedic implant materials. And what my people tell me is that it will be standardized and brought online within the next couple of months. Now, that may seem like a long time to you, but I can tell you as the lab director that that's amazingly prompt from request to fulfillment of the antigen and validation of it according to us and CLIA and others that are statisticians and so forth. We can and do this all the time. The reason that we test for more items than anyone else is because we make them all ourselves, and we're quite confident in the nature of our antigens, the nature of our microtiter plate, the nature of our procedure, the nature of our cell culture. All embedded in the LRA by ELISA Act tests. I'm now trying to think what is the longest time it took for us to standardize an antigen, and that was about 4 or 5 months. So on rare occasion, we come upon a new category. So we know how to do foods. We know how to do preservatives and chemicals, toxic minerals, molds, dander, feathers, hair. But occasionally we come upon a substance that's new to us as a category. That will take longer to standardize. So we are very efficient, proficient at all the steps necessary to deliver quality results from an ex vivo LRA cell culture that gives you T cell information that's critical. You can only get that from cell culture. That gives you immune complex information, which can also be critical. And it gives you meaningful information about the antibodies, because they could be helpful or harmful, and we can distinguish good from bad. So thanks for asking. I rarely get to hold forth on some of the rather unique, patented, proprietary things that we do. We patented this a long time ago. I think we patented it probably in 1983 or thereabouts. So we have aged our patent, but it's still ours. And we're proud to represent the first cell culture that gives you ex vivo meaningful results with an interpretation, lifestyle and epigenetic interpretation about what to do with the results.